I'm going to just have a quick introduction about myself. I'm the founder at Mind Resilience Training. So I think one of the first things to remind ourselves about the human brain is a certain characteristic, which is its characteristic of neuroplasticity. Essentially, our brains are malleable, they are moldable. The wiring and the structure of our brains are not set in stone. They can be changed. Now, when we talk about the brain, I think it's important to discuss neural networks. What are neural networks? Neural networks are essentially a set of instructions that the brain sends to itself or sends to the body. For example, when you step out of your home and you drive to the office, there is a neural network in your brain giving you instructions on how to drive to the office. When you reach into your bag to pull out your purse, there's a set of neural networks, a set of instructions in the brain on how to reach into your bag and pull out the purse. The fascinating thing is that there are also neural networks for your thoughts and emotions. Your thoughts and emotions have a physiological existence within your brain. So for example, if you tell yourself, I'm a bad public speaker, I'm a bad public speaker, I'm a bad public speaker, there is a physical existence of that thought in your brain. And the more you reinforce that thought, the stronger that neural pathway becomes. And when that neural pathway is very strong, it becomes easier to fall back on that negative thought or that negative emotion. So for example, if you keep telling yourself you're a bad public speaker, that neural pathway is so strong that maybe an opportunity comes up for you in the office where your boss says, hey, there's an opportunity to give a presentation in front of some very important people. Would you like to do that? But your self-talk has strengthened this limiting belief, so you just automatically fall back on it and say, oh, well, this is not for me. I'm not good at public speaking. So what I'm trying to say is that the limiting beliefs that you create for yourself, they are also holding you back at work and holding you back from opportunity and growth. Yet at the end of the day, a limiting belief is just a set of thoughts or emotions that have been wired into you, and they can be unwired. You can unlearn them. A little bit of neuroscience, a little bit more neuroscience. Something that's very fascinating about the brain is the prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is essentially the driver of your car. It is the executive decision maker. The prefrontal cortex is responsible for things such as decision making, learning, memorizing, problem solving, and inhibiting emotions, regulating your emotions. This is the part of the brain that is responsible for that. It is thought to be the last part of the human brain that evolved and is about 4% of the size of our brains. I want to repeat inhibiting emotions because the prefrontal cortex plays a large role in our discussion today on limiting beliefs. Now, why are we calling the brain a car and the prefrontal cortex your driver? It is essential to be aware that our brain runs out of fuel. Every time you engage in one of these mental activities, such as decision-making, learning, memorizing, problem-solving, inhibiting emotions, every time you engage in one of these mental activities, a little bit of your brain energy is consumed. And that's important to know because every day when we wake up, we have a limited amount of fuel each day. The thoughts we have, the ability to manage our emotions, the way we prioritize our day is essential because it's directly connected to how we consume the precious resource known as our brain energy. And at the end of the day, the key here is to prioritize prioritizing. Understand whatever your role and responsibility is in the office place, whatever your key tasks are, it is essential to align when you are most fresh and alert to your most important tasks. Now, Each one of us is different. And the first thing is to understand, when do I have the most energy throughout the day? Me, most of my energy is in the mornings, in the first half of the day. Then after lunch, my energy dips. So I know that I have to do most of my important work in the first half of the day. That is how I optimize my brain fuel. That is how I optimize my brain energy. And that's why it is essential to prioritize and prioritizing. Do your prioritization either for the day or prioritization for the week before you engage in such mental activities, because eventually your brain energy is going to deplete. So things to try to optimize your brain fuel. We talked about prioritizing, scheduling the most energy intensive tasks for when you are fresh and alert. Lock in blocks of time for different modes of thinking. So this is also quite interesting, because the brain, different parts of the brain are like different parts of the body. When you go to the gym, you work out your biceps, you work out your legs, you work out your chest and all. You cannot do one part of the body all day, because that part of the body, whether it's the biceps or the chest, becomes exhausted through overuse. So the brain has different parts. There are different parts of the brain that are responsible for different types of thinking, for deep thinking, detailed work, creative work, imagination, logic. So when you understand when your brain is most suitable for, when your brain has the most energy, you can set a time per day, for example, for deep thinking. I know that in the morning I have the most brain energy. Therefore, I'm going to schedule work that requires deep thinking for the first half of my day. Creative work, which a lot of research is showing that the less you use your brain, the more creative you are. The less you try to think of a creative idea, the more likely that creative idea will just come to you. Therefore, I will schedule time for my creative work later in the day, because I know that's when my brain is more loose, it's more fluid. I am not constricting my thought patterns to specific projects. I am letting whatever ideas come to me and see how I can take advantage of it. This is the same for brainstorming, for detailed briefs, waiting for more data. So basically, let's say that, again, I'm speaking to people from different industries, different sectors. We all deal with different clients. We all deal with different partners. For example, let's say that we have a client that we work with regularly, and this client sends an email says, hey, I want to have a call with you tomorrow. We'd like to discuss a new project. Great. But then what happens? Your brain starts going off on all these thoughts on, oh, what could the project be? Is it about this product? Is it about this service? Is it about this SKU? Is it about this market? Your brain starts overthinking about what are the possible projects that your client wants you to work on. But what's happening? You're depleting your brain energy. You're depleting your brain energy for no reason. So one of the things is to be intentional about waiting for more information, to be intentional about, okay, I'm not going to think about the possible project that my client wants me to work on. I'm going to wait till tomorrow till I get on all the answers. I'm not going to daydream about the possible work that this client, this good or bad client, has waiting for me, because I want to preserve my brain fuel. Play around with information. Don't hold so much information in your brain. Take it out of your mind. Write it on a notepad. Write it in your book. Write it on a post-it note. Write it on your laptop. Don't let it linger in your brain. When this information, when this data lingers in your brain, that is also depleting your fuel. Visualize it. This is mainly for meetings. Use pictures, metaphors, stories, objects. The brain is more attuned to visuals than to words and text. So if you're trying to get a message across in a meeting, use visuals, because the other person will more likely understand it, as opposed to simply writing everything down or writing a very wordy PowerPoint like I have right now. Another tool is to simply remind yourself when you are speaking to an angry client or a boss that's giving you negative feedback, suddenly your emotions start to rise, then your brain kicks in to regulate these emotions. When you remind yourself that, okay, conscious thinking, conscious mental activities is a precious resource, you are less likely to get lost in the overthinking and less likely to get lost in destructive emotions because you are reminding yourself that I have a limited amount of fuel every day. I'm not going to entertain this individual. I'm not going to give my emotions away to this toxic individual. My emotions and my brain energy is more important than the subjective opinions of this toxic person that I work with. How to have confidence in leadership. So I'm actually going to explore a tool on that a bit later on. It's basically, it's a deep question, and there are lots of factors involved. First of all, lack of confidence is essentially a result of fear. And where does this fear come from? This fear comes from the limiting beliefs that we are about to talk about. Once you are able to let go of that fear, this is how you create the confidence. And the fear, again, obviously I'm speaking in general, I'm giving general tips here. I think a lot of fear comes from fear of other people's opinions and what other people think about us. This is, I think, one of the most important myths that you must destroy. Why? Because we have to look at it a bit deeply here. People's judgments of us are very subjective. They lack objectivity. People's opinions of us are a result of their own pasts. People's opinions of us are results of their own passions, their own traumas, their own successes, their own failures, their own limiting beliefs. And they create that and they project it on to you. And they start judging you. So one way to let go of that fear is to simply let go, stop being so attached to what people think about you. This is one element. So when we look at limiting beliefs, what are they? Imposter syndrome, feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, negative self-talk, comparing ourselves to others, perfectionism. These limiting beliefs are deeply ingrained within us from so many years of conditioning, social conditioning, living and working in certain types of environments. And like we discussed before, the more that you engage in that limiting belief, the stronger the neural pathway becomes. If you keep telling yourself that, if you keep, for example, comparing yourself to others, if you keep comparing yourself to your colleague, comparing yourself to your boss, this is a recipe for disaster. And the more you compare yourself, the more you are strengthening that limiting belief. And that is what plays into the fear. That is what plays into the stress. It is not so much about the obstacles that we face, it is about our interpretation of these obstacles. And that's what we're going to be looking at to answer some of these questions. Where do these limiting beliefs come from? Childhood experiences, family upbringing, culture and social expectations, media, Netflix, school and university, workplace environment and colleagues. That's why it is essential for each of us to turn inwards and to understand what is the source of my limiting belief and what is my limiting belief? What is the source? Where did it come from? Did it come from my family? Did it come from what happened to me in school? Did it come from the rejections that I used to get in the office place? And then what is that limiting belief? Am I a perfectionist? Am I telling myself that I'm not enough? Then how is that affecting me? How is that affecting my stress? How is that affecting my negative self-talk? How is that affecting my relationships? How are these limiting beliefs affecting the quality of work that I deliver? These are the questions that we should ask ourselves. And then once we figured out the source of our limiting belief and what our limiting belief is, then we transform our thinking. And this is the tool that I want to talk about today, which is related to the questions of stress. Whenever you feel stress, the first thing is to check, how do I feel? What are my thoughts? What are my emotions? What triggered my stress? Was it an individual? Was it an event in the workplace, like a proposal rejection? Like a not getting the promotion that I was hoping for? Not being appreciated for the hard work that I've been doing? That is the first step, self-awareness. The second step is to shift your perspective. Replace the thought either by reframing what you are experiencing or labeling it. Usually, ideally from a more positive place, a more constructive way of thinking. How can I look at this differently? How can I grow? How can I learn from the situation? Where is the opportunity? So going back to stress and problem solving. You're given a problem and you have to solve it. And you start feeling stress. Again, I don't know what the reasons of the stress are. Maybe the reasons of stress are, I don't think I can do this, or I don't think I might get this wrong. I don't know what's going to happen. The first thing is to change your perspective to understand, okay, what is within my control? That is also a different tool. So we're also looking at other tools right now. Understand what is within my control. There are many things that are out of my control, which I don't need to list, but what is within my control? What is within my control are my words, are my actions, and my behaviors. That's the first thing, is to shift to what is within my control. The second thing is to say, okay, how will I grow from this problem? How will I become stronger? What am I going to learn? See how we change the perspective here. Problems help you grow. Problems help you become stronger. Challenges help you learn, if you're willing to look at it from that situation. So now when I know I'm going to learn from this problem, I'm going to learn from this challenge, I know I'm going to become stronger at the end of this. So why should I stress? Again, I'm speaking in general here. We can always go into more detailed situations, but at the end of the day, it is, how do I see this problem from a different angle? How can I see this problem in a way that benefits me? Because if it's benefiting me in one way or another, that will reduce the chances of stress. And also being to identify what is within my control at all times. So I change my perspective to see, okay, this is what's in my control. This is what's not within my control. I shift my mind and my energy and my focus to what is within my control. This is also a preventative medicine. It's a preventative medicine from avoiding being consumed by the stressful thoughts and the overthinking, because I know what's within my control. It's the way I write my proposal. It's the way I present my presentation. It's the argument I have when there is a conflict. It is my ability to practice many times before speaking in front of a large audience. Those things are in my control. You reduce the load on the brain by understanding and being honest with yourself about what is essential in your life, what is essential in your work, and disregarding everything else. We are bombarded with a tremendous amount of information, and I believe that a part of our limiting beliefs is that we have to accept and take in all the information that's given to us. You cannot be a Hoover. You cannot suck in all the information that you get because your brain will be overloaded. You have to be intentional. You have to discriminate between what information is important for me and what information is not. And actually, when you discriminate the information, you're also building a certain muscle in the brain, because a function of the brain is to trim information that it does not deem necessary. For example, I'm happy with my memory. I think I have a good memory, but I am terrible with restaurant names. And with all due respect to anyone who works in the food and beverage industry, I'm not a big restaurant guy. So remembering restaurant names is really not important for me. And my brain has figured that out, and it just doesn't remember, because I know in my unconscious that restaurant names are not important to me. When I have so many family members, they talk about restaurants and they're like, oh, you know this restaurant and you know that restaurant. I'm like, no, I don't. I like to go out and eat well, but I know that I don't need to remember a restaurant name because I need to remember so many other things in my life. And that is what helps me have a good memory, because I know what's important and my brain knows it's important, and my brain has built the wiring to remember that this information is important, this information is not important. Therefore, my brain will trim that unnecessary information during the day and during the nighttime as well. When you sleep, the brain is throwing away information that does not seem important. For example, think about it. How can you remember your loved one's birthday, but you don't remember where you parked yesterday? It's because the brain knows that, okay, it doesn't really matter where I park. That's not important. But what matters is my loved one's birthday, because I want to show that person that I care about them. So that's one perspective. Great question. Perfection is a limiting belief because it contributes to our feelings of not enough. To me, perfectionism is like a mirage in the desert. The closer you get to it, the more it moves away from you. Is there really a definition of perfect? Is there really a definition of perfect work? The definition of perfect, it changes. The definition of perfect is subjective. Your boss's definition of perfect is different from your definition of perfect, is different from your colleague's definition of perfect. So you are essentially chasing a benchmark that is always moving. With perfectionism, you are chasing a finish line that keeps getting farther and farther away from you. And then what happens? You blame yourself. You tell yourself, I'm not enough. Why did I get this wrong again? Oh, I misspelled a word. I'm such an idiot. We are here today to talk about mental wellness, and we are here today to talk about inner peace and balance. These thoughts are what's affecting your inner balance and peace of mind. When you create a benchmark that is never fulfilled, that is what is harming your peace of mind, and that is also strengthening your feelings of not enough. How to manage conflict. Again, so there are multiple elements involved. I will speak about them generally. The first thing is to let go of the fear of what people will think and say about you. That's the first thing. The second thing is to also come with a certain level of compassion. When we exercise compassion to our fellow colleagues, when we exercise compassion to the human being that we're dealing with in front of us, that also calms us down. You have to be calm when you are managing conflict. You have to be calm, you have to be collected, you have to be able to speak clearly, you have to be diplomatic, because there are, of course, always emotions involved through you and through the other person. So part of exercising that compassion is when you see the person in front of you and you remember that this individual wants what I want. They are looking for the same things. They are looking for love. They are looking for security. They are looking for growth. They are looking for a high quality of life. When we see that the individual in front of us wants the same thing, there is this compassion and these feelings, these positive feelings that actually calm you down. That, okay, I don't need, why should I scream at him? He's just trying to get by like I'm trying to get by. So let go of the fear of other people's thoughts about you. Develop compassion. Then the third thing, it is about getting your arguments ready. Now, in conflict management, it is important never to make anything personal. It is not about you. It is about the quality of your work. It is about the output that you create. I am not criticizing you as a person, but I am criticizing the work. I am criticizing the Excel file you put together. I am criticizing the proposal that you wrote. This is what I'm criticizing. And at the end of the day, this is what work is about. It is what is your output. So you have to remember that I am not here to criticize you as a person. I'm here to criticize the work. Then you put your arguments together. Okay. In your again, I'm just coming up with general examples here. In your proposal, you missed 3 points that the client said that they needed. Why did you do that? In your proposal, if you miss those 3 points in the proposal that the client needed, that's going to look bad on me and you. The client will look at me and say, Sammy, what's this proposal? And then I will get in trouble. And that's also the fourth part, which is show how it affects, how the other person's lack of work or the other person's poor quality of work affects me, affects my work, affects my performance. So it is, we covered a few things, letting go of the fear, being compassionate, criticizing the work, not the person, and then showing that individual how his whatever bad thing that he's done affects my work and my performance. There's a lot more, but I'm trying to give the general pointers here.
I am in total harmony with my inner self, and I literally live life exactly like you said. What should I work on? So the audience did not say the problem area, what exactly here. So that is something. So I think it would be that in spite of living such a life, the life is still stressful. So in order to, work on stress, what is that he needs to do?
I mean, if you are living in harmony with yourself, which is what you mentioned in the question, this is a great achievement. When you accept yourself for who you are, when you accept yourself with all your strengths and your flaws, nobody can touch you. You're bulletproof because you accept yourself as you are. So I think it's important to recognize this great achievement. Again, a lot of our stress is not about the object of our stress. It's how we interpret that object. Now, if I am happy with myself, I'm not saying I'm perfect. Nobody's perfect. We are all constantly growing and we are all constantly changing. But if I know deep in my foundation that I am whole, I will not be as stressed out from whatever setbacks happen, whether it's a client rejection, whether it's an angry boss, whether it's a low benchmark, low performance review. I know that, okay, I am whole, I am fulfilled, I can achieve what I put my mind to. I'm not saying don't do anything. I'm saying, okay, because I am fulfilled, I have the ability and skills to achieve my potential. So it is really always, so what to work on, it is really about how do I improve myself? How do I become better than I was yesterday? You're not competing with other people. You're competing with your old self. How do I improve myself today better than I was yesterday? Even though I'm living in harmony. I still get angry, I still get upset, but then where can I reduce the areas of my anger? Why should I get angry when I go to the Ittisalat retail outlet and when I see a long lineup, I get angry and I say, oh no, this line shouldn't be long, I should be it first. How does that serve me? Again, I'm giving a small example. And in time, when you realize that, okay, I can reduce my anger because I'm happy with myself. Why should I be angry at other people? I'm happy with myself. Then in those specific situations, I know that I don't need to be angry. And then when you stop being angry, like we're talking about, that wire in your brain, that neural network in your brain is no longer activated. Oh, I have to be angry if there's a long lineup in the retail outlet. But when you replace that with, actually, I don't need to be angry. Being angry does not serve me. How does being angry help me? How do I benefit when I become angry? Am I in a better place or am I in a worse place when I become angry? These perspectives, when you look at things from different angles, you realize that this frustration does not help me at all.
Nutrition and a relation to the mind thing, how to train the mind. Is there any correlation between the nutrition?
For sure. So there are lots, again, there's so much out there. There's a lot of food. There's a lot of different diets that help you in maintaining your brain energy. And one of them, again, keep things simple, keep things general. Don't have a heavy lunch. Don't have a heavy lunch. Don't go to that food court. Bring your own food from the house. Keep it light. A salad, a simple protein. Why? Because when you have a heavy lunch, all the blood in your system is going to your belly to digest the huge amount of food that you ate. And then what happens? Your brain energy is depleting. Your energy is gone. It's all the blood, all the glucose, all the oxygen is going into your stomach to work on digesting what you ate. So you keep it light. I had a salad today because I knew I'm giving this presentation. I need to have my energy up. So keep it light, keep it healthy, low sugar, veggies, fruits. If you're going to have carbs, make them brown. Brown rice, brown pasta, brown bread. Brown has fiber in it. Fiber is important for absorbing all the oils and fats that you consume and letting it out of your body. So light, keep it brown, protein, veggies, fruits. It's be as clean as possible. The heavier, the more fatty, the more sugary the foods are, the more that's going to give you a food coma and make you tired, and you still have another 4 hours of the day in the office.
What is your opinion that brain should be used to do one task at a time? Should we be doing multitasking? As multitasking requires person to think a lot of things at one particular time frame, what would you suggest?
This is a great question, and the answer is very clear, and it's been proven over and over again. When you multitask, accuracy and performance drop. When you multitask, accuracy and performance drop. Research has shown that even a Harvard graduate, when he or she multitasks, the accuracy and performance is the same as that of an 8-year-old. The Harvard graduate's brain is now the brain of an 8-year-old because he or she is multitasking. So that is also something crucial. As much as you can, do not multitask. One thing at a time. Improve short-term memory. Great question. So there's short-term memory and there's long-term memory. Long-term memory becomes long-term after you engage in the same task over and over again. It gets stored into your long-term memory. Now, short-term memory, it is about being mindful. It is about being aware. It is about clearing your thoughts of whatever mental clutter you're going through. Excuse me. So for example, if I'm trying to get to the Futtaim Willis office, let's say I know that I'm close to the office. I see it on my Google Maps, but I want to remember exactly where it is. I have to be intentional and be proactive about what I'm seeing. Okay, I see there is a McDonald's on my right. I see that there's a gas station on my left, and then Futtaim Willis is behind this gas station. I am focusing my mind. I am not thinking about anything else. My mind is in the present moment, and I am intentional. I see, okay, McDonald's on my right, gas station on my left. And the more you do that, eventually your mental muscle will learn to be in the present moment. So it is about being mindful. It is about getting rid of the mental clutter and being aware of your present moment and being proactive. And you'll see that will improve your short-term memory.
So the question is, if the reality you thought as real becomes a lie, such a family relationship or friends or trusted kin, peer, does change in perspective help? How should one cope with such a frustration?
For sure. This is also something that's very important, because human beings will let you down. Family and friends will let you down. I don't say this to be negative, but it is a fact of life. This is part of life. One way, again, we're talking about how do we heal on the inside when these things happen, is forgiveness. It is to forgive. To forgive when whatever, your best friend didn't come to your birthday. To forgive when your brother or sister behaved in a way that was below them. To forgive when a friend was not there to help you when you thought that they would help you. Forgiveness is so powerful. It is such a powerful tool. And you forgive by remembering that these people are human. These people have their own lives, have their own interests, have their own ways of thinking. We sometimes think that people are like us, but like you said, the reality shows and you realize that actually, wait, this individual is not like me. I'm not saying to cut, I mean, it depends. If you want to cut this person off, that's your choice, but that's always a last resort. The first thing is forgiveness. When you forgive, you heal yourself. And you forgive with an open heart. Do what you want. And if I will take this to the next level, let people do what they want. Leave them to their own devices. Let them engage in that behavior. They are only hurting themselves. Again, we're talking about how do we maintain our balance. We're not necessarily talking about how do I solve a problem with a friend or a family. You'd be surprised when you let go and you allow that person to behave the way he or she does, they will come to their own realization eventually. And of course, we remind ourselves that simply that person doesn't know any better. If that person knew any better, they would not have said or did what they did. If that person had the same level of integrity and ethics and morals that you think they had, they would not have acted like that. But it appears that they don't have that level of integrity. Therefore, it is easier to forgive because I'm sorry, I put you to a high standard.
Example, following Google Maps to reach out to each destination. Too much use of Googling things instead of using thinking and brain for other resources. So what's your thought process on that?
Absolutely. I love the Google Maps example. Google Maps is my favorite app because I don't need to think about where I want to go. So because I'm so addicted to Google Maps, now when somebody tries to give me directions with their verbally, I'm just like, I can't even absorb it. I literally cannot absorb what they're saying because my brain is not used to it. So in that sense, in this example, yes, technology is taking away parts of your brain that you are not using. Now, on the other hand, generally speaking, technology does greatly affect areas of your brain. It affects your focus. You are unable to stay focused. It affects your memory. It affects your emotions. It even affects your ability to learn and read. When you read and learn something from a paper, your brain absorbs it much more than when you are learning and reading from a screen. When you are learning and reading from a screen, the information is going in, but it's not going in as deep as when you learn from a book or from written notes. So yes, absolutely, absolutely. Technology is something that, I mean, I will go off on a tangent here, but technology is simply a tool. Control your technology or else it controls you. If you want, if you have a pen and paper around you, or if you want to screenshot this, you face a difficult work situation, check yourself. What are you feeling? What are your thoughts? And then change your thoughts. For example, a lack of appreciation. My boss rarely recognizes my work. I feel worthless and I'm never enough. Change that perspective. Well, now I look back and I see all the people that have recognized my work. I see what my strengths are. I know that I'm enough.
Thanks, Sammy. I think we have covered almost all the questions.
Sure.
It was a very informative session. It is, in fact, something which gives us a thought. Are we investing our energy and our brain on the right things? Are we losing out on something? So thank you so much for your session. Very informative. Hope our audience also enjoyed the session. Thanks for joining in. Have a nice day.
Thank you. And quickly, you can also follow me. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. If anyone wants to chat, you can send me an email or connect with me on LinkedIn and Instagram.
Thank you so much, Sammy.
Thank you very
Have a
much.
nice
Thank
day.
you.